I've spent the last 4 years building and launching different digital products. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the thought process in terms of what it takes to uncover customer problems and turn them into real successful products. Whether you're an aspiring product manager or you're just interested in how products are built, in this video, I'm going to give you an insight in terms of how a product manager thinks and approaches these problems. But before we dig into the frameworks in terms of how I approach solving problems, let's start with what the definition of a product manager is. And the definition can be a bit elusive. Whether you're a product manager at a bank building an internal dashboard for just employees of the company, or if you work for a fashion company that sells products on an e-commerce platform, it's going to be very different in terms of the type of role and responsibilities that you have as a product manager. But in a nutshell, a product manager is responsible for the success of the product that the business sells that contributes to the wider company mission. I know that's super broad and super flaky, but we'll go into it later on. There are two broad stages to building new products or building on top of existing products, and that's discovery and delivery. Product discovery is all about understanding the challenges in your market. What are the biggest problems that your customers have? And what are the biggest problems that your existing product has if you have one? Delivery is taking that consolidated view of your customer problems and then turning that into a solution that you can build and measure and launch. This includes prototyping and building the minimum viable product that you can get out there that solves that customer's problem. Now, the biggest book to popularize these terms, discovery and delivery, is inspired by Marty Cagan. It's almost the rite of passage for product managers to read in this space. So I'd highly recommend, if you're looking to improve your product sense and just build that base knowledge, definitely worth picking up this book. Now, another common thing around the product manager title is that you are the CEO of your product. In my opinion, I don't really agree with this statement. It's often said that, you can lead and drive the direction of the product, but ultimately, what your product delivers depends on the vision set at the top of the company. So if you're working for a larger company and you've got founders running it, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to lead and do everything that you want and be the CEO of that product. You are executing on their vision. So I think take a pinch of salt when people say you're going to be the CEO, you'll have autonomy in terms of what you want to do in building the product. You have a certain goal, a certain mission to achieve, and it's within your job and within your remit to deliver that and deliver the best product that can solve it. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't push boundaries and create something wild or something innovative. Please do, but just understand that there are sort of certain limits in terms of what you're going to hit. So in most cases, a product manager is going to spend a lot of their time doing stakeholder management. But in good companies, you can build healthy practices and processes that sort of standardize the stakeholder management and checking, and so that you can reduce that time. But unfortunately, it's just not something that you can get rid of. I like to think the PM is almost like a conductor of an orchestra, where they're constantly instructing and tweaking their instructions to the team to try and deliver the best outcomes for the product. Whether that's getting a product designer to draw up a prototype, or an engineer to create a proof of concept, or even marketing to create materials that you're going to push out to advertise and get customers on your platform, you're constantly assessing what you need to drive the product forward. When I think about creating new products or features, I like to take a step back and think of it from what is the top vision of the company that we're trying to achieve, and then work our way backwards in terms of what product or feature that we need to deliver that will help execute on that vision. Now, as we go into this breakdown, Reforge have an excellent article on the product strategy stack, which I will leave in the comments below. You start at the top with the company vision. What is the mission that you're trying to achieve? Now, your mission should be emotive. It should get people to care about what you're trying to do. It's also immeasurable. It's not something that you can tick a box and say, yep, we've done that, we've achieved the mission. It's complete in most cases. So if the mission empowers your employees to deliver great outcomes, then you've sort of got it spot on. So let's look at a couple of examples. So let's take Huel's mission, for example. Their mission is to make nutritionally complete, convenient, affordable food and minimal impact on animals and the environment. And then let's take another example looking at Nike's mission. Bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Both of these are broad missions that make you feel empowered, but they're also likely to unchange unless their worldview fundamentally changes. The step below this is the company strategy. What is it that we're actually going to do as a company to reach the mission? This changes more often than the mission, usually 1 to 3 years. Note that a lot of people get strategy and goals mixed up. A strategy for Huel would not be increased sales by 10% year on year. That's an outcome. That's a desired outcome of a strategy. A strategy example would be, we want to develop a wider variety of nutritionally complete products and partner with national distributors to increase accessibility to Huel products. So make sure your strategy is more tactical and how you're going to achieve an outcome rather than specifying the outcome as the strategy. Below this, we go into the product strategy. This is the connective tissue between what we build in a product roadmap and why we think it will have an impact on our company strategy. A product strategy cannot live in isolation. It needs to have a solid understanding of what sits above. Sticking on the Huel example, their product strategy could focus on creating more ways to consume Huel on the go, developing a range of ready-to-drink options that could be stocked in supermarkets. This supplements their homemade subscription product. And finally, we get onto the product roadmap. The list of features and products that we're going to develop against this strategy. There are many ways that you can prioritize this roadmap that could be another video in of itself. But quite simply, I'd like to look and build the items that you think will yield the highest impact against your desired outcome. Great, so now you have a solid understanding of your company mission, the company strategy, and your product strategy. Now you need to build a product. Let's first talk about this with product discovery. You don't want to jump into product development without any inclination that the solution you're building is going to actually solve the customer's problem. Instead of spending weeks or months developing products, you can de-risk this through product discovery. This starts with focusing on a challenge that a customer or market has, then going broad to understand more deeply about the problem. Competitor research, surveys, interviews, existing customer data, these all help to paint a better picture of the problem at hand. And note that this section should be limited relative to the size of the problem you're solving. You don't want to spend months and weeks on doing discovery if it's just a small problem that you're trying to solve. Now you have a good idea of the problem space, you need to consolidate it down. For example, if you have a savings app, your customers may tell you that they don't like the way payments work in-app. This is too broad. We need to be more specific. Is it the UX of the app that is clunky and hard to navigate? Is it the options to pay? Do you prefer Apple Pay over direct transfer? Or is it the speed of payment leaving your account? Narrow this down so you have a defined problem. Great, so we have a defined problem. Let's move on to the delivery phase. In this phase, we build prototypes, landing pages, proof of concept products that we put in front of customers. Whether it's conducting more testing or interviews or releasing the product live to customers, we take the feedback, we iterate on that solution, and we continue building. This is where things like development sprints, epics, and planning all come in to actually build the product after we validated it and tested our initial assumptions. And by the end of all this, we should have a working product. Now, during the delivery phase, you want to come up with some kind of success metric or hypothesis in terms of what you expect your product to do. Is it an increase in the number of clicks on a particular call to action? Is it increasing the number of signups, the number of people on your email list? Having a clear idea of what success looks like is important before you release the product, so you know what you're measuring and you know what you're optimizing for. Now, in the testing phase, you may roll out to a smaller subset of groups. So, for example, you might do what's commonly called an A/B test, where only 50% of your customers can see the product that you've now introduced or a new feature. You might even have smaller focus groups if you want to do it with just 10 to 20 people, depending on your customer base. But having a test group to compare against a control, so sort of like an old science experiment that you do in school, is important so that you can see the difference. Regardless of how you go about it, set a clear plan in terms of how long and what you're measuring for. You want to make sure that you're not leaving this on for months or even years before you're sure whether you want to roll it out properly. So have a clear idea of what success looks like beforehand. And after all of this, if you're lucky, you will have a product that may solve your customers' problems. I want to note though that this is just one way of thinking about approaching product problems, and a huge caveat, in most cases, your experiments and what you deliver here, even following this framework, will fail. But those failures help you learn because you go back to the different parts of the process. So if the product is completely flawed and actually we need to go back and review a strategy, we can do that. Or if it was just part of the user experience and the journey wasn't clear, we go to a part of that diamond that you can see in the diagram and go, okay, well, maybe we need to tweak the prototyping phase. So we'll talk to more customers, iterate, and do another test. Just know that failure is rife, and it's natural and it's going to happen, and it's something that product managers really have to sort of internalize and get used to. So if you have a failure, take the learnings, continue to iterate, go through that loop, and magically at some point with a little bit of luck, you'll have a product that actually solves your customers' problems. There is so much luck involved in creating a great product, so don't be discouraged if things don't go your way. Just focus on the things that you can control. This has been a whistle-stop tour in terms of how I think and how I've approached problems as a product manager and learned some of these frameworks along the way. So if there's any more particular topics that you want me to go into and dive into depth, let me know in the comments below. And also, if you want to watch a video on why I quit product management recently to build my own products, you can click the video here.